What's up, guys? Welcome back to Buried Truths. We're with Jake,
Noah,
Today we're going to talk about the case of
Joseph Fritzl, who in 1984 captured his daughter, his 18-year-old daughter, down in the basement and raped her multiple times and had 7 kids with her.
pretty much how he got that. He was like, she was going to run off with her boyfriend. He was worried about it, so he wanted to keep her at home forever, essentially. There had already been some sexual abuse stuff happening in the past, already at the house earlier in her teenage years. So she was like, oh, come downstairs, like help me with this door thing. And she was like, what? Like, went to go do it, pushed her basically into this underground thing he dug out, like a couple rooms.
Yeah, I made a whole house just for her. Like, it was crazy.
Couple hallways.
There was multiple rooms. There was 2 bedrooms, a kitchen. There was
like a padded room.
There was a padded room, like a silent-proof room.
So as we were saying, there was the 4 rooms that he dug out, the 2 bedrooms, the padded room, like the soundproof room. The whole thing was soundproof, but this one was extra. And the kitchen, and there was the utility room, laundry room that were like in the basement, part of the house itself, not added by Joseph. And then Noah's gonna talk about how you might think, like, how did the wife never find out for 24 years that her daughter was like pretty much right under her nose?
Yeah, the reason why Rosemary never found out who was the wife is because the utility room she never really had to go in the utility room, and there was kind of like a tinted window from the door from the utility room to the laundry room, so she was always in the laundry room, but she never went into the utility room, which is how she never saw this secret door which led to the other rooms, which had Elizabeth captured and her 3 other children that were down there.
It's kind of crazy, but you can't really blame her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you never would think
why would she ever go in the utility room?
Yeah, and like, you'd never think that your husband would do something like that.
Yeah.
Because he was like a well-respected, like...
Yeah, like everyone like loved him.
Good businessman.
Yeah.
Like, so in the 24 years in the basement, they had a total of 7 kids, Elizabeth and Joseph as a father and a daughter, which is kind of crazy. But the 3 that got to live upstairs were Lisa, Alex, and Monica. Those are the 3 that lived upstairs with him. He made up the story that she joined some like religious cult, that she couldn't take care of them, so she was like dropping them off at her parents' house because like she trusted them to raise them. So that's how he like kept his image as like a good like family man, household man, and that's how his wife never found out about any of it because she was kind of busy raising these 3 kids now as their own.
And then downstairs there was Philip, Kirsten, and Stefan. Along with the other 6 kids, there was another kid who died during the delivery process, and this was because the extreme like situations that were going on downstairs, like the conditions.
Poor conditions.
Yeah.
Like basement. So
one of the things that it highlights as like the conditions that they lived in was that like their immune systems were really poor because there was no fresh air that was coming in.
No sunlight.
Yeah, there's
just
none of that.
Very, very few meals, and obviously he gave the same amount of food, and they kept having more kids, so they had to distribute that between more and more people.
Like as more and more kids came on, there was less and less supplies that they could feed.
And those kids lived in there the whole time with no idea that like that was not.
They thought it was normal,
which is So that's kind of wrapping up episode 1 of the podcast of Buried Truths. Catch you in the next one.
What's up, guys?
We're back. Buried Truths podcast, and we're going to be talking about life in the basement and kind of like how what was going on while Elizabeth was trapped down there during those 24 years. So obviously everyone was looking for her, friends and family were worried, her boyfriend was worried, but Joseph, like we said, made up that whole thing about her joining the cult, wrote fake letters, did a bunch of things to manipulate the mother, and then all of her friends. Obviously the last place they thought to check was the household itself, let alone a secret room that's not part of the original floor plan and is soundproof, so they really had no way of hearing, and like you could only yell for help for so long. I mean, it was 24 years.
It really is crazy the lengths that he went to keep this continuing on. And speaking about lengths, let's talk about the entire enclosed space that they lived in while they were down in the basement.
Yeah, so for sure, like kind of what Noah was saying, the rooms were no bigger than like this living room that we're in right now is probably bigger than most of the rooms in there. And the hallways were extremely narrow, like it was one person at a time. I mean, as the kids grew up, obviously, but when they were little, it probably was more than one at a time. But the 2 bedrooms, it was probably the mom with the youngest, and the other 2 would share the room. Kitchen was very gross, and then the padded room. Touching on how the kids never really knew it was weird that they lived in the basement and like the weird hallways and stuff. The kids would get gifts every once in a while, so Noah kind of touched on that. So Joseph would like be giving them gifts and stuff. So
for their birthdays, they always got little gifts from Joseph, and some of them were pretty substantial. Like one of them was a TV, so they spent a lot of their time doing that. And I don't really know like what their access to like the TV was because they were underground, and like what channels they had, but
we're gonna assume it was game changing.
Yeah.
I mean, being in the 4-room underground basement, like having a TV.
I bet it was crazy. Though it seemed normal that when they were down there, Elizabeth knew it wasn't, and she wanted to give her kids a normal life. So she kind of schemed up a plan to bring her oldest daughter to the hospital. She was feeling ill, but we'll get more into that next episode, which we'll get into now.
I remember my first home. My sea of pirate ships. My cozy, distant galaxy. The one I took for granted for so long. Each time I opened my door, I also remember my second home. A burrow of lazy laundry and cheap fast food, where I learned that nothing should be taken for granted.
What's up, guys?
We're back, and today we're going to be talking about the escape plan from Joseph Fritzl's basement. So, obviously, Joseph wouldn't want to let anyone out of the basement because that would jeopardize his whole plan of keeping them down there for as long as possible, so he wouldn't get caught. Because obviously, if Elizabeth or any of the other children would be up there, they'd be confused and they'd want to just tell someone about what was going on. So, the plan that Elizabeth came up with was the oldest daughter that she had was sick, so she begged Joseph to bring her to the hospital. And
she was actually sick though, right?
Well, no, she was sick.
She was sick, but they used it as
she'd
a
been sick
ploy.
before, but she over exaggerated it to where this time she felt like they needed to go to the hospital.
Did they play it off the conditions of the basement,
Yeah,
malnourishment?
It was because she was malnourished and her immune system was all messed up. So at the hospital, it was actually Elizabeth and her daughter. So in the hospital, her daughter was getting treated, and as her daughter was getting treated, Elizabeth was in the waiting room, and in the waiting room, Elizabeth took a chance to talk to one of the nurses for help. So she told the nurse that she was in danger and that her father had been keeping her held captive downstairs for 24 years. So,
So then based on that, the security at the hospital obviously took action, and then through a court case, it wasn't hard to see. The mom finally seeing her daughter. Obviously, everyone was like, "Oh my God!" Joseph Fritzl was charged with incest, rape, enslavement, false imprisonment, and the murder of one of the twins. Which probably was due to the incest and the bad conditions that the child was born in. But that he cremated his body after in secret. That's probably what they got him on. But so he was given life in prison for that, obviously, and. Was there a chance of parole now?
Yeah, there was actually a chance of parole. After 15 years, I don't understand why they would ever
probably
do
because it wasn't the U.S. one, but
yeah, it's definitely some Austria
that's
stuff.
Really insane. But so far he's still in prison. He's been in prison. He's a pretty old dude at this point.
Yeah, he's probably almost dead.
He's 80. He was 60 when it was happening. So 24 years. I don't know how they had 7 kids.
Yeah,
but he's not gonna get out of prison. Horrendous crime all around, but. Took the chance, talked to the nurse, and
another thing they mentioned was Elizabeth is kind of off on her own now in some secret little
witness
community
thing.
I don't remember exactly where it is, but it's in Africa.
Yeah, and some of the kids still live with her mother.
Yeah, some of them do.
Even though now they're
because the kids never really
they didn't do anything.
The mother didn't do anything, so the kids could stay with the mother.
So that's where they've been living, but now they're aware that Elizabeth's the real mother and the whole situation. Obviously, the kids living upstairs, that's really traumatizing for them, but...
especially since they didn't know what was going on underneath.
But obviously it's a blessing for the 3 kids that were down there. They're hopefully able to get back to better health, and then Elizabeth, obviously, and Joseph's in jail, so...
Yeah,
that wraps up very secret
Yep.
podcast, and thanks for watching, guys.